What is our third main topic today?
All right. I will say this. If you need your appreciation up for RDJ, Robert said it best after the show, go watch Chaplin.
Yeah, and that's where he got his first Academy Award nomination for, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so next, Nicolas Lara writes, "Hi, John and crew. So, Dark Phoenix opened up domestically with around $33 million.
Here we go.
This is bad, considering estimates were in the 40 to 50 range. Do you think the reviews had anything to do with this low number, or were people just done with the X-Men Fox universe? Thanks, and greetings from Colombia."
Well, thank you for writing from Colombia, Nicholas. Look, the reviews will always have an impact and influence. You know, it's the cool thing to say, nobody cares about review. Yes, they do. And the studios know it, and the PR people know it, and it absolutely does. Does this movie open to $33 million if it had glowing positive reviews? It wouldn't have opened at $100 million, but you bet your ass it would have opened higher than $33 million. The unfortunate thing with X-Men Dark Phoenix, which, by the way, I don't think was a terrible movie. I'm not necessarily saying it was a good movie, but it actually wasn't terrible. It actually had a pretty strong third act. I'll give it that. And that one train scene that we were all worried about in the trailers actually was the highlight of the film, but whatever. Is this a movie that would have made $70-80 million opening weekend with strong reviews? No, but it probably would have gotten to that $45 or $50 million mark. The problem is it wasn't just the reviews. We have been hearing for a long time that this was a troubled production. We've been hearing for a long time, Rob, that things were not going so well with X-Men Dark Phoenix. We were hearing a lot of this stuff for a long time. Now, just to put this into perspective, at $33 million, which we all know right away for a big comic book movie is not very good, it does actually make X-Men Dark Phoenix, Rob, the lowest opening. The final film in the franchise ends up being the lowest opening by a mile in the history of the franchise. Let's take a look at the X-Men films. Obviously, the biggest X-Men related universe film that's ever opened up was Deadpool at $132 million, Deadpool 2 at $125, The Last Stand at $102, which is kind of funny for people to think about. That's Last Stand at $102 is really more of a testimony to how good X-Men 2 was than anything else. X-Men Days of Future Past opened to $90.8 million. Logan opened to $88.4. Remember, that was an R-rated film. X-Men 2 opened up at $85.5 million. X-Men Origins, the O there is for Origins. X-Men Origins Wolverine opened to $85. X-Men Apocalypse at $65. First Class at $55. X-Men, the original film, opened to $54 million. Then we've got The Wolverine opened at 53, and then a massive drop all the way down to Dark Phoenix at $33 million. Now, to be fair, this film actually did pretty well in China. It actually opened to as much, if not more, in China than it did in North America. It's still going to end up losing them money. And it's not the, how shall we say, it's not the legacy that you want to go out with. And Rob, that to me has been the big thing about this is, you know, I actually finally did go see X-Men Dark Phoenix, and it's got upside. It's got upside. It's got okay first act, dreadful second act, and a pretty solid third act with some problems. Overall, my whole impressions was not terrible, but Rob, you're talking about one of the most important franchises in the history of the comic book genre that has had some of the greatest comic book movies ever made in it. To go out like this, we've talked last week about the reviews. This week, it's clear with the box office numbers, the audiences were like, we're just not hearing good things. And I don't anticipate it's going to have good legs moving forward. Rob, let me ask you this. When the reviews came out, I said, you know what? The X-Men franchise is strong enough that I don't think this is going to impact its legacy, the legacy of the franchise too much. But now you're compounding that with the worst opening ever. Do you think stuff like this, what do you think about these numbers? And do you think stuff like this could impact the overall legacy of the franchise as people look back on it in years to come?
That's a tough one, man. I mean, I think everyone knows that the X-Men franchise has been sort of fractured over the last 19 years. We've gotten... It started out strong with the original X-Men and then X2, and then X-Men The Last Stand sort of, it was done haphazardly and it was done very quickly, and then the Wolverine movies were very up and down, and then of course we ended up strong with Deadpool and Logan, and now we're back here. People forget, like, the two highest grossing X-Men movies, not including Deadpool, but the actual X-Men team films was Days of Future Past was number 1 and Apocalypse was number 2 worldwide in terms of their what they grossed. And it's sad to see, like, I love the X-Men, and I worked on the special features for both X-Men and X-Men 2, made documentaries for the movies, and I really love this franchise. And I think the problem that this movie was facing, was that they just ultimately weren't true to the stakes or the scope of the original story that they were adapting. And I think that Dark Phoenix was a bigger story. It was supposed to be a bigger story than was depicted on screen. And anybody who knows anything about the comics, with the Hellfire Club, and you've got the Shi'ar Empire and Lilandra and all that. But even when they went, like, Magneto is working on some commune now. It's supposed to be Genosha, but it's not an island nation. It's like in upstate New York, wherever the hell it is. Like, we're on a hippie commune where mutants are safe, and hey, the government gave us this land.
Well, let's not give too much away.
Well, no, just I haven't seen the movie.
Oh, okay.
For the trailer, and for me to not run out and see an X-Men movie was crazy. But I think that it's unfortunate because, like you, I've heard other people say, well, it's not that bad. I mean, I like the characters, I like the actors. I haven't seen the movie yet, but it's sad to see this franchise. It didn't just underperform. It's a massive failure. And that's never good to see, ever. I don't like to see any science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic book movie to open and to be a failure, because so much time and effort was expended by everybody involved to make a great film. And it's never good. I never feel good about seeing something like this. But I do think it does taint the franchise moving forward for the legacy of Fox. But on the other hand, it tees it up for a triumphant return for the X-Men in the MCU under the auspices of Kevin Feige and his regime there, Louis Esposito and everyone else at Marvel, to bring these characters back triumphantly. So sometimes you need to fall off a cliff before you can rise back up and take over the world.
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing open mic yesterday, and it was either on open mic or on my Last Stand open spoiler discussion, that somebody said, who's probably smiling a little bit right now about the results of X-Men Dark Phoenix is probably Kevin Feige. Because if you think about this, if the first X-Men movie that you're going to make is coming after, I don't know, Logan, good luck. Because Logan is better than maybe all of the MCU movies, maybe save one or two. If you're trying to make your first X-Men movie coming off of X-Men Days of Future Past, good luck. Because X-Men Days of Future Past is better than probably most of the MCU movies. There's a good number of them that are better, I think, than that, but that's a tall order. But you make the first X-Men movie after X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men Dark Phoenix, you're going to look like a hero. You're going to look like a hero no matter what coming off of that. And one of the viewers wrote into me and said, yeah, Kevin Feige probably didn't want them to fail, but he might be smiling a little bit because it makes his job a lot easier now. Now it's just a matter of sitting down and waiting to see how long. Is it going to be 5 years like Kevin Feige hinted? Will he shorten that up maybe 3 or 4 years from now? How long is it going to be till we see the X-Men in there? We'll have to wait and see. Now, question goes over to you guys. What do you think these results, both critically and now financially, for X-Men Dark Phoenix, how do you think that plays into the legacy? Like, as we look back maybe 3 or 4 years from now, as we look back on the legacy of the Fox X-Men franchise, are we going to be thinking about all-time great comic book movies like Logan, Days of Future Past, Deadpool, First Class, X-Men 2? Or are we unfortunately going to be stuck with that stain and that little bit of a bad taste in our mouth about X-Men Apocalypse or Dark Phoenix, and who knows what New Mutants is going to be if it even ever actually hits theaters? What do you guys think the legacy is going to be at this point? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your
thoughts. What about
thoughts.
New Mutants too?
I mean, if it comes out, I mean, Disney said it's come out, we'll have to wait and see.